everyone, this is Avery and Jonathan, and today we wanted to talk about hive stands and hive placement. So throughout our 3-year journey, we have figured out that there are some factors we like to consider when it comes to where we're going to place our bee hives and how they're going to look. So wanted to go through those with you today. A few of our tips, starting with.
Well, I think the big thing is beehives like to be in the sun. We are fortunately and unfortunately kind of poor in the sun department. We live on the side of a hill, and we have some really mature white oak trees that are 120 feet tall. And so we love those trees. We also love the bees. So it's kind of being a little bit more strategic on where you put the beehives at. So behind us here is kind of my first stab or first attempt at the beehive placement. I chose this because right behind the camera there's 3 large oak trees that cast shade on the majority of this part of the yard. But down here, through a good part of the day, the hives get at least indirect sun most of the day, and they get solid direct sun kind of during the heat of the day. And I think this has really helped wake them up in the morning, get the bees out to become productive, and it also helps them fight back or fight off those pests like small hive beetle that really thrive in a high shade environment.
Another factor that we like to consider is visibility. So we have a road that runs right here. Probably, what would you say? How many feet?
Probably 100 feet.
These hives are pretty close to that road. So on one side of it, we have folks that really enjoy seeing the hives, and they like to comment on the bees, if they're bearding, if they're not. You know, this hive doesn't look as active as the other. So it's a wonderful talking point with our neighbors and people who drive by. So that's the pro. The con of our hives, this set being so visible, is that if someone wanted to access them to hurt our bees or to mess with them, again, it's only...
They're pretty easy, yeah.
Yeah, so that's just something we like to consider. Our other set of hives, right now we have 2 locations, are more hidden. They're further away from the street. So that was one factor that we like to talk about when we think about what's coming next, where we want our next kind of grouping of hives to go. So that's another factor.
So something else to consider is, you know, it's really easy to walk out empty boxes to just about any location. But as the bees grow and they pack in all their resources, those get really heavy really quick. And so it becomes very inconvenient to carry a 50 or 100-pound box one at a time up a hill or over to an area where you can have vehicle access. So one thing that is really important to consider is, can you get a tractor or utility vehicle, your truck, right up next to the hives so that as you're working them, harvesting honey, doing other things, you can very quickly and easily pull those resources off, and it's not such a back-breaking effort. Because when you're in a full bee suit and it's hot, you really don't want to be exerting any more physical effort than you absolutely have to.
That became really apparent when we were harvesting our honey.
Yeah.
Another factor we like to consider is the function of the placement. So for us, we have a toddler and we have several acres, and one of the functions of our acreage is that she can run and play outside and explore outside. So that's our main function. So we need to think about where can we place hives that she either does not have access to or it's harder to get to. So thinking about what the function of your property is or where you want to place those hives for me became more and more important as our child started walking and running around the yard. So those are a few factors that come to mind as we've decided. We've got a few more, but we're going to go up to our other stands. So come on with us.
The next factor that we consider is hive stands. Something that a lot of people do is they use cinder blocks, and that works really good most of the time. We have a lot of elevation gain change here at this property, and as you can see here, just from one end of this to the other, there's like a foot or two of change in elevation, so it makes it really challenging to get a hive that's level so that you can really stack a lot of boxes on top of and not have to worry about them falling over. So what I've been using so far are these 2x10s. I actually had these laying around. I think they were used to form up footers when the house was built. And so these were just laying around, and I'm trying to utilize all the resources that I have. And so what I've done is I fashioned up this hive stand, which the big thing I want to point out here is that the distance between these rails is such that you can slide a frame down into to hold the frame while you're working the bees. So I always, I'll have a little bit of space, kind of like you can see back here between each hive, and so that'll allow me to get the um, the frame set down, get myself a little bit more room to work in when I'm working the bees, and then when I'm done, I can pick it up. The other thing I've also discovered is that was the original anticipated way of using that, but this also works really good as well. Setting them like this, you don't have to bend down as far. The bees on the sides don't get smashed. It also helps prop it up, and when I'm done, I can just come up and pick the frame up again. The another element that we've already talked about, but another element that I could touch base on here is the amount of sun this gets. So this particular spot is facing the east, and the sun comes up and it immediately shines out here in the morning, first thing in the morning. So these bees that are facing this way will get the morning sun right out of the gate. And then we get pretty much direct sun all day up until about 1:30 in the afternoon when things really start to heat up. And I think that helps the bees kind of help keep the hive cooler than if they were just in the sun all day long. Have had really good luck with them in this spot so far. So that's why we're looking at expanding this zone here to have more hives in this particular area.